We are back yet again here on Thick Men Inc., and we are revisiting an old tradition where we make tier lists going into the 2023 NFL season. Well, I guess that part's not traditional, but we're making some more tier lists today. And once again, we are visiting the quarterback position, the most important position in all of sports. And we are going to tell you who is on the Mahomesian level, who is elite, who is Kirk Cousins, who is capable of being a functional bridge quarterback, who is a worthy holder of the clipboard, and finally, the XFL legends. Now, first off, we've got Aaron Rodgers. And not too long ago, I would have said, maybe he's in the Mahomesian tier. Maybe he's worth the argument. Not anymore, though. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't even put him in the elite tier. He did not perform at an elite level last season. He was not top 5. He was not top 8 last year. I don't care what the statistics say. He was dreadful, cost the Packers games, and now he's going to go to an entirely new system with a worse offensive line and a worse running game, in my opinion. So I'm going to say for the 2023 NFL season, Aaron Rodgers rests squarely in the Kirk Cousins tier, but I'll be generous. I'll put him near the top of the Kirk Cousins tier. I'll say he should go near the top of the Kirk Cousins tier. What do you think, Tristan?
I was getting fully ready for you to hate on Aaron Rodgers. You know, the Vikings fan in you. I was ready for it to come out. I thought you were going to toss him down to the capable backup, maybe bridge quarterback if you're feeling a little bit nicer, but you were extremely nice with how I know you feel about Aaron Rodgers and especially his fan base, and I have to agree. I don't really care about his 2 MVPs within the last 3 seasons. That's not what he's done for us lately. Last season, he was an quarterback, and I think something that hasn't been talked about enough when it comes to his game is that he is not nearly as elusive in the pocket as he was during the prime of his career. He no longer is really running away from defensive linemen like he was earlier in his career. He's lost a step athletically. Now, he still has that arm. Veteran quarterbacks, they have that decision-making process. It's the only thing that gets better with every single season you play in the NFL, but I don't quite think he's in that with some of those other elite quarterbacks anymore. I think he's still a very good quarterback, but with his athleticism somewhat diminishing, I think that's why he belongs in the Kirk Cousins tier. Now, I probably would still take him above Kirk Cousins, but that's to be discussed when we actually get Kirk up on the list.
That decision-making thing's debatable. You've clearly not been paying attention to what old Aaron gets up to off the field, but we'll leave him at that. Who do we have next?
We got Andy Dalton.
The old red rifle. You know, was once, I'd say, maybe in the Kirk Cousins tier, definitely a solid starter, but at this point in his career, he is a clipboard warrior. He should not be starting for any team. He may be starting for some teams. It's hard to tell. He's old, he's gassed. The only thing which has gotten better about him recently is his beard. If the Panthers end up rolling him out there, the only benefit he has is he can mentor a young guy, but Andy Dalton's just not it anymore.
See, I agree with you that he's well past his prime. He's not really that guy anymore, but I think he belongs more in that capable backup tier right underneath bridge quarterback. Reason being, he played for the Saints last season. Did not look great, but he also did not look horrible. He beat Jameis Winston out for the job. So I think if he's your backup quarterback, you're not necessarily terrified if your starter goes down. I don't think he quite belongs in that bridge quarterback tier because the Saints, or who has Andy Dalton now? It's Panthers have Andy Dalton because like the Panthers, they're drafting a quarterback with the first overall pick. So they're not looking for him to start a full season for him, but they're more than happy for him to maybe even start the first few games if they need him to, and also back up that rookie. So I find him as a capable backup. I don't think he belongs in the clipboard warrior, bench warmer. You never want him to see the field here. I feel like he belongs more in that area.
Yeah, it's not enough of a difference for me to argue about with Andy freaking Dalton. On to the next player we got.
We got your favorite Baker Mayfield.
I like me some Baker Mayfield. I really do. I think the Buccaneers signing him could very well win more games than last season. Still got Mike Evans, still got Chris Godwin. It's conceivable they sneak back into the playoffs in that weak NFC South. I'm going, I'd say he is a decent bridge quarterback. You don't want him to be your guy right now. You don't want to be your franchise guy, but at the same time, there are a lot worse options out there than old Baker Mayfield.
I love how you're just stealing that take from me. It's not too long ago you were calling me crazy that the Buccaneers aren't going to fall off that much with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. That's the opinion I hold. I think he looked really solid at the end of last season. We've also seen a lot of bad from Baker Mayfield over the past 2 or 3 years, so I think that kind of that takes away from him a little bit. I think he's more than capable of being your starter. He has very good receiving weapons. He's more than capable of get the Buccaneers to the next season. I agree that he's a bridge quarterback.
No one wants to steal your Walmart takes, Tristan. But on to the San Francisco legend. Is that Brock Purdy?
It's Brock Purdy down there.
It's Brock Purdy. Now, hear me out. He performed at points in the Kirk Cousins tier of last season. He would be a solid franchise guy, it looked like. But we've also got to take into account he's got one of the best offensive minds in the game backing him up. He had the best skill players in the league, and he had a top 3 offensive line. I think that really helps you. That obviously really helped old Brock Purdy, but he was also a rookie. Now, we don't know what he's going to be like after the shoulder surgery, how jacked up his arm is. Elbow surgery, excuse me. We don't know how jacked up the arm's going to be, but I don't know. I'm going to say, as of everything we have seen right now, I want to put him in the Kirk Cousins tier. I really do. Kirk Cousins didn't play as well as Brock Purdy did as a rookie, but I'm going to slide him in right above Baker Mayfield. He could be a good bridge quarterback, and if he keeps improving, he'll probably get up in that that Kirk Cousins level, maybe that elite level pretty soon. He looked very good this year, though.
Well, the highs were very high, and he didn't have that many lows because he also didn't play in that many games. We still need to see more of Brock Purdy, and it's complicated a little bit by the fact he had a significant elbow injury. We don't know how his elbow is going to recover. We don't know how the velocity on his passes is going to recover. And I think if we don't have that injury to take into consideration, and we have the entire season of his rookie year to take into consideration, without a doubt, he'd belong in that Kirk Cousins tier. But then there's also the fact you're playing with probably the best supporting cast in the NFL by a country mile. So we really need more information on him. We need to see more games. We need to see him play more. But from what we saw last season, and not being too harsh on the injury, I have to agree with Isaiah here. Bridge quarterback, there's not enough bad to put him below Baker Mayfield. Next up, we have Minnesota legend Case Keenum.
Case Keenum. Oh, Lord. It has been a while since Case Keenum has been a consistent starter. I'd say I'd slide him in below Andy Dalton there. I don't think there's that much to say about old Case. Yeah, I'd say below Andy Dalton. He might be the bottom of that tier. I don't think I'd panic per se if he was forced to take snaps, but...
I don't think you're panicking, but I don't think you're thrilled. I feel like you're more okay. I mean, with either of them, you obviously want your starter in there, but in my mind, he may fall on the top of clipboard warrior, but I'm not upset if we're going back end to capable backup. I mean, it's Case Keenum. We don't need to argue about this. So if you want to keep him capable backup,
you can drop, man. We need to fill out this tier list as is.
I'll let you have capable backup because you're gonna let me have some later. I'm gonna make
No. That's not how this works. Anyway, whatever. Who we got next?
I think that's Colt McCoy. No, who is this?
If you can't tell who that is, he's going into clipboard warrior.
It is Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Colt McCoy's going in that clipboard warrior. I would much rather have Case Keenum than Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Colt McCoy is not the best starting quarterback, or not the best starter if he has to start games for you. Occasionally he can put in a good game for you where he maybe throws for 250 yards, couple touchdowns, runs for 50 or so, but you're less than thrilled if he has to step on the field for you. But I don't think he's quite an XFL legend.
I was forced to pick up and play Colt McCoy in a 32-team fantasy league this year. He was dreadful for me in the absence of Kyler Murray. Get him. I intended to put him XFL, but go on.
Next we have Skip Bayless's favorite quarterback in the NFL. We got Cooper Rush.
The sample size we have seen of Cooper Rush is probably smaller than every single other person on here. I'm going to say the only reason I'm putting him above Baker Mayfield is his his very positive record as a starting quarterback. Cooper Rush is a winner, or rather, he doesn't sink the ship. Baker Mayfield's highs are probably a little bit better than Cooper Rush's. They're definitely a little bit better, but he can also go out there and just put on an absolute stinkfest. Cooper Rush is much more consistent. I put him just above Baker Mayfield.
I don't think he's belongs in that bridge quarterback tier because when you take a look at what he's done and you take a look at the market when he was a free agent this season, no one signed him to be their bridge guy or potential guy to compete with whoever their starting quarterback was that also may not be very good. So I think he fits more in that capable backup tier. You're not terrified if he has to start 3 or 4 games for you like he did for the Cowboys. I think he probably belongs above Andy Dalton there, but you don't want that quarterback starting for you for a season, because your fans are just going to get pissed off and not want to go to any of your games. So I personally think he belongs in that capable backup tier.
I personally do not concern myself with the opinions of fans, but I'd definitely rather have him than Andy Dalton, so you can put him above him there.
I would rather have Baker Mayfield, and like we saw with the Bucs signing Baker, I think that kind of validates that. But now we have Cooper Rush's teammate. We got Dak Prescott, Cowboys beat favorite player.
Now, Dak Prescott is objectively a Kirk Cousins style athlete. One of the most Kirk Cousins. The highs are really good, the lows are really bad. Primetime, he's a little bit better than Kirk. Playoffs wise, he's got a few good performances, but the season always seems to end with a double interception game. I just wouldn't say he's elite. There are only so many elite quarterbacks. I would not put Dak Prescott in the category. I think I'd rather have him than Aaron Rodgers right now, though.
It's kind of back and forth. I mean, what we saw from Dak in that playoff game left a lot to be desired. I mean, it was an Aaron Rodgers type of collapse against that 49ers defense like we saw 2 seasons ago in the championship. Or was that championship or divisional?
I believe that was a championship, but you never know. We've been wrong before.
Who cares? I mean, we saw that type of collapse from him in that game. 2 horrific interceptions. I'd probably say just Dak Prescott because he's younger and he has more athleticism in his game at this point in his career. But I mean, either or, I think they're the high end of that Kirk Cousins, good quarterback tier right now.
All right, next.
We have Isaiah. We got Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, Danny Pennies.
Well, the Giants have put him into that Kirk Cousins tier. He's certainly not elite. He's certainly not a backup either. But he's proven himself to be maybe a top 20 quarterback in the NFL. Tristan's going to overrate him. I can't dare to expect that. I think Daniel Jones is a product of being with a good offensive mind and having a really solid running game behind him to back him up. Look at the passing numbers he put up this year. They were not that impressive. The rushing number is very impressive for someone of his limited capacity, as in a white guy, but I don't know. I would put him at as a high-end bridge quarterback. You're not going anywhere with Daniel Jones. You're top out at beating a horrible defense in the wild card round.
I mean, we've seen a lot of bad from Daniel Jones, and he did only throw 15 touchdowns last season. People love to say that Lamar Jackson can't pass the ball, but he threw for over 30 touchdowns one year, led the NFL in passing touchdowns, has shown that he can actually produce as a passer in the NFL. Daniel Jones just hasn't done that yet. I mean, he did have some production his rookie season, but he had a shit ton of fumbles and a shit ton of interceptions there. So we haven't seen him put together above average season as a passer, although he was electric and elite at the quarterback position as a runner last season. So they're paying him at the top end of the Kirk Cousins tier. But me personally, what we've seen so far from him, I would put him at the high end of the bridge quarterback tier.
Boy, the Giants faithful are not going to like that one. You are not going to be a popular man in the streets of New Jersey.
But do you agree with me on that?
I don't think he's in the Kirk Cousins here, even though he beat Kirk Cousins in the playoffs. It's not hard to do what he did to that Vikings defense. So we'll leave him there for the time being. On to the next one.
We got Davis Mills.
Davis Mills is in a rough spot for me because, one, he's been unfortunately given a very long neck, which makes him funny looking in pictures like this. But second off, he has been in the worst possible situation for a quarterback in a very long time, in my opinion. He gets stuck in the Texans organization where it's pretty apparent they are tanking for the number 1 overall pick. And he goes out there and beautifully counters the tank, wins the last game of the season, loses the Texans the first overall pick in an act of defiance against the organization by him and Lovie Smith. So I have a lot of respect for him for that. But come on, man. It's Davis friggin' Mills. I'd put him below Cooper Rush, honestly.
So you would still put him in capable backup?
He can be a capable backup, sure. We've seen him as a young player. I definitely wouldn't put him in the bridge quarterback tier. But if you can start games and look decent, I mean, it's not really his fault the Texans were horrible past few years, so I just slide him in there.
I mean, you've convinced me. I was going to toss him down with Clipboard Warrior, but I think because, like you said, he's a young guy. He still can improve his game being in the worst situation. It makes sense not to be too harsh on him. We'll toss him in between Andy and Cooper Rush.
We'll throw him a bone if he's watching.
We have a few NFL players watching our content.
I don't think we do, but
yeah, we literally do.
On YouTube, maybe not. On the TikTok.
On YouTube, probably not. We got Derek Carr.
Derek Carr was not very good last season, and his highest highs are not exactly better than Kirk Cousins, but I also don't see him as quite like a bridge quarterback. He's good enough to get your team to the playoffs on a consistent basis as long as your team isn't putrid. He'll put up decent box scores. He'll have productive seasons for your skill players. So I'd put him, he could maybe be the gatekeeper of the Kirk Cousins tier. You gotta be better than Derek Carr to get into it. He'll be the worst person in the tier, I think.
Well, it definitely did not look good last season. I mean, he flat out looked like a bad quarterback, but prior seasons, he looked very good. One of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, certainly a top 15 quarterback. He's not better than Aaron Rodgers is right now. He's not better than Dak Prescott, but he's not necessarily a bridge quarterback. Like, I think if you're a franchise like with the Saints, you're more than happy with him being your starter over at least the next 2 to 3 seasons. So just based off that alone, he definitely belongs in Kirk Cousins tier versus being a bridge quarterback, where I think all the guys in bridge quarterback, if they have a bad year, they're gone from their team or they're on very thin ice.
Given how the Saints do things, Carr might be gone within a year too. They're kind of using him to bridge. Yeah, you're talking me into putting him at the top tier of bridge quarterback. Like what you just described, like, oh, play 2 to 3 years more. That is a bridge quarterback while they fix their cap situation.
I consider a bridge. I mean, look at the money he's getting paid, though. They're still paying him 30 plus
Look
million.
at the money they're paying Daniel Jones.
That is true.
Yeah, go ahead and put Carr in there at bridge quarterback.
I feel like that's too mean.
You think Derek Carr's taking a break from applying eyeliner to watch our videos?
I think so.
All right, just you do what you want. I'd say he's a top tier bridge. It's virtually the same position.
All right. Now we got Deshaun Watson.
Now look, body of work wise, an argument could be made for elite. However, I watched him play some unimpressive football last season to the point where I think, hey, maybe Deshaun Watson doesn't quite deserve that Kirk Cousins tier. Maybe he falls into that bridge quarterback tier, but he's getting paid that top tier elite Mahomesian money. But he's also a scumbag, so I think he goes with the rest of the scumbags right into the XFL. Deshaun Watson go stare at the beer snakes.
I would have to agree with you. From what we saw last season, he was just flat out bad. There's nothing he did at a high level. People want to point, certainly Browns fans want to point to the maybe 4 or 5 plays he had per game where he was a high level quarterback that made a high level throw. But on a bunch of those, he was throwing to wide open receivers from the highlights that they're showing, like, oh, he found the open guy. There's a lot of quarterbacks that can find the open guy in the NFL. It's if they can make an elite throw, and if what we've seen from Deshaun Watson in the past, moving around the pocket at an elite level. And when you're getting paid a Mahomes level of money, and was certainly off the field stuff, it belongs in the XFL. I mean, I agree with Isaiah.
I feel bad for the XFL dragging him down in. Maybe we put like the AFL or whatever it was, that league which folded.
The Canadian Football League. Or
no, not the CFL. The Canadians don't like people of Deshaun Watson's skin tone, so I don't think he'd fit in too well up there. So we'll move on to the next quarterback quickly.
We got Desmond Ridder.
Oh, Lord. Now, Desmond Ridder, that's rude. That being said, I got no problem with rudeness. From what we've seen so far, Desmond Ridder is a clipboard warrior, and he's been put in the unfortunate position by his franchise where people are now going to start comparing him to Lamar Jackson, who is probably going to wind up in the elite tier of this video, because his team said, yeah, we'll go with Desmond instead of him. Desmond Ridder could very well be a solid quarterback, and we might see a great deal of improvement in next season, but from what we've seen so far as a rookie, behind a better offensive line than a lot of people realize in Atlanta, I think he's been very bad. I don't know if you'd want to be your backup quarterback. We need to come in and play. For Mariota, it was not a good scene. So I'll put him right there for now. But he could definitely get better. We could improve a lot this offseason and jump up quite a few tiers.
So are you sticking with me, clipboard warrior, or are you advocating for him to be a backup?
There's no tier which properly expresses where I think Desmond Ridder belongs. Uncertainty. Desmond Ridder is an uncertainty at this moment in time. But I will say from what we've seen so far, he deserves to be right down there with, I'd say better than Colt McCoy.
We'll at least throw him a bone, put him above Colt McCoy. I'm sure as he's watching us, that'll make him thrilled. Drew Lock, we got the other Seahawks quarterback there.
Then we got another XFL legend right there.
Yeah,
I am unmoved by Drew Lock.
He certainly has not played at a high level. Geno Smith took that starting job last year, excelled at it, and Drew Lock just hasn't done that at any point in his career. He's never taken over a locker room. He's never proven to be that guy, at least that guy when it comes to being a franchise quarterback or starting quarterback in the NFL. And I don't think you're thrilled if he's stepping onto the field for you in week whatever it is to fill in for whoever your starter is. In this case, Seahawks Geno Smith.
Then again, we saw the old Russell Wilson experience win Denver last year, so maybe he's not entirely to blame. But for now, he's been dreadful, so we're just going to put him in that XFL legend tier. He'd be very good in the XFL. Anyway, on to the next one.
We got Gardner Minshew.
Either the absolute bottom of bridge quarterback or near the top of a serviceable backup, I think.
So my thought process with this, prior to the season, 100% would have put him at bridge quarterback. But we saw him step onto the field with the Eagles this year. And the Eagles had probably the best roster in the NFL and lost both games with Gardner Minshew as their starter. So that's where I'm knocking him down to capable backup. I think he's on the high end of that. I think you're not too worried if he steps in as a starter. I know I just said he lost both his games as a backup last year on the best roster, but I think he belongs in that tier. I think he's capable of coming in and starting a few games for you, but I don't think you want him to start for you for an entire season.
Didn't mention that the Cowboys game he played was the same game the defense decided to have the worst performance of the year prior to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'd say right about there. I got no issue with it. Next,
we got Geno Smith.
Geno Smith's definitely in that Kirk Cousins tier. I'd probably have him, I don't know if I have him over Dak, I'd have him over Aaron Rodgers based off one season of production because the offensive line's not great, but he's got two good receivers which help him out a little bit. He's got Kenneth Walker. He's right around Dak Prescott. I think I prefer Dak Prescott right now, but if Geno Smith has another crazy efficient season and gets the Seahawks back to the playoffs with a horrible defense, I'd put him above Dak.
I mean, I personally, if we're just basing it depends on all the different things we're taking into account. I know we've referenced a couple different things here, but I would definitely take him over Aaron Rodgers right now. And I would take him over Dak Prescott.
Because you hate the Cowboys?
That's certainly maybe part of it, but from what we saw from him last season, he was incredible. Was it second highest or highest completion percentage in the NFL from a starting quarterback, had a horrific defense playing for him, and he brought the Seahawks to the playoffs. If the Seahawks defense was any better, they could have made a deeper playoff run. So that's why I'd put Geno Smith. I mean, if they had a better defense, you never know.
I think we know on that one. I ain't going to fight you on Geno Smith. You can put him above Dak if you want. I personally disagree, but I know why you're doing it. Next.
We got Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor is someone who is
Jacoby Brissett. Sorry.
I can't see the screen, okay? Like, the screen is too small mine to see. So you can't be making these racist selections, man. You got to be 100% on these gentlemen of color. So who is that?
It's Jacoby Brissett.
Put him in bottom tier bridge above Baker Mayfield.
I agree. I mean, he was great last year. I mean, if you want to call it filling in for Deshaun Watson, he played better than him.
Yeah, for what you expect from Jacoby Brissett, he played pretty well. No need to have a long conversation about a lot of these guys. The video is 25 minutes long. I've only done like 15 people. Next.
We got Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, he's our first elite quarterback. Not Mahomesian yet, but he was definitely if he keeps playing the way he did, he'd be in that Mahomesian conversation. He had an amazing Super Bowl, but it's only his first year of elite production. I'd say right there, top of elite. Yeah, he's going to probably be the best player in elite so far, unless you make an argument for someone like Herbert or Lamar to be a bum. I'd say top of elite.
I would toss him in elite. I'm only one season so far, but that one season we saw, he's electric as a runner. He showed he made big strides as a passer, so I agree. I think he belongs in there. Next up, we got Jameis Winston.
The thing with Jameis Winston is he's kind of reminiscent of a Josh Allen of a younger day. You have no idea what you're going to get from Jameis Winston. One day he might come out there and throw 500 yards, however many touchdowns. Didn't do that too often with the Saints, but he was also hurt a lot as a Saint. And the other day he could come be the worst quarterback in the NFL. I like Jameis Winston a lot. I kind of think he's the Forrest Gump of the NFL. But I'm going to say if he is your bridge quarterback, he's been used as a bridge quarterback before. I'd rather have him than Baker Mayfield, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, but he also lost his starting job to Andy Dalton last year.
He also got hurt last year, though. He lost his starting job to injury.
Well, once he was healthy, he wasn't the starter anymore.
Yeah, because he was injured. Do you think... I don't think Andy Dalton's better than him.
I don't... Okay. And you think he's better than Baker?
I think he's better than Baker.
Now we have Jared Goff. who I think is a very interesting quarterback. I mean, last season he was very good in the Lions offense. We've seen him be also very bad in previous years with the Rams. But, I think what have you done for us lately is the most important thing. And he's not quite in that elite tier. I don't think he ever will be, just due to he doesn't have some of those physical capabilities of other guys in the NFL. But I would put him above Dak Prescott. I'd put him above Geno Smith, and I'd put him above Aaron Rodgers.
And maybe Rodgers. I don't know, man. Above Geno and Dak feels suspect to me. Like, I could see the argument for Geno, but at the same time, he had a better offensive line than Dak, had a comparable wide receiver one, had a better running game than Dak. I don't know. He put up better numbers. I definitely say that. For just this season, based off last year and going forward, because I think that Detroit offense is going to be really good next season. Particularly if they get the dude from Alabama they drafted on the field. I'd say sure we can put him above there for right now. He can be the architect of Kirk Cousins. I'm starting to realize Kirk Cousins might be at the bottom of his own tier.
Now we got Jared Stidham.
I'd say keyboard or clipboard warrior, maybe XFL legend. No need
I think
to argue.
we take him above Desmond Ridder and Colt McCoy, though.
I'd take Desmond Ridder's upside, probably.
I don't know. Jared Stidham hasn't looked that bad.
Yes, he has.
Compared to Ridder, in my opinion. I think he's shown more flashes.
The Falcons fans are going to have an aneurysm if we put Desmond Ridder below Jared Stidham. So let's just throw him that bone. All right, next.
Jimmy G.
Very good bridge quarterback. One of the best bridge quarterbacks.
We put him above Daniel Jones and Derek Carr. Or who we put him above?
Here's
Brock
my
Purdy?
take. I'm going to say above Carr for this reason alone, and it's a weird reason. Carr may be a better quarterback than him, but I guarantee you the Raiders are going to win more games next season with Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback than they won last season with Derek Carr. So for that reason, I'm going to say Carr gets bumped down a peg, but on paper, he is worse than Carr, and I'd even say Jones.
I think that I also, it's kind of one of those weird situations where Derek Carr's highs and Daniel Jones's highs are much higher than Jimmy G's highs, but their lows are much lower than Jimmy G's lows. So it's an interesting conversation you can have. I'm not necessarily going to fight you on that. I personally would take the upside of both Carr and Daniel Jones, but I mean, that's kind of a conversation you can have. It's a more nuanced conversation than just placing them into tiers. So I don't necessarily hate it.
I also think Jimmy G is arguably the best clubhouse guy in the NFL. Now, Joe Burrow is the one quarterback in the NFL who consistently gives Patrick Mahomes headaches. I know it's more than a two-person sport, them going back and forth, but he gets the better of Patrick Mahomes a lot. I'd say he is comparable to Mahomes, not quite on his level yet because he lacks the rings, but the arm talent's there. The talent was there in college. He beats Mahomes in the playoffs. He beats him in the regular season. Mahomes got him this time, but I think Burrow could very well get him the next time they see each other. So I'd say he's in that Mahomesian tier. He's got amazing talent. He's got great up around him. And behind the offensive line to Stroll at points, he is still excelled. So I say he's in the Mahomes tier. Mahomesy in.
Now, I think Burrow is very good. I think he's one of the three best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. So what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to slight him. I think he's very good. Unless you're a fan of the Bills or Chiefs or one of those teams that have some of these top guys, you're 100% going after Burrow. You'd want him on your team. With that being said, I don't think it's talked about enough, the fact of how much help he has around him. I mean, he has Jamar Chase, one of the best receivers in the NFL. T. Higgins, a very high-end second option at receiver. And he's had Tyler Boyd, one of the better slots in the NFL. And then he's had Joe Mixon, who's one of the 10 best running backs in the NFL. So that certainly has made life easier for him. I think he's very good. I think he's an elite quarterback. But for those couple small nitpicky reasons are why I would put him in elite versus Mahomesian.
Your nitpicky reasons for him are that he has help. Mahomes has help. Mahomes had the best tight end in football. He's had a good offensive line his entire career. The only game he didn't have a good offensive line, he got smacked in the Super Bowl by the Buccaneers. Like, in totality, I say Mahomes' help is comparable, or Mahomes' help has been comparable to that of Burrow's based on the fact the offensive line disparity is such. Like, are we just going to put Patrick Mahomes in the Mahomesian tier?
That's how I think it should be. I think there's a gap between him and everyone else, but for the sake of it, I can let you have that one, I guess.
You get the argument. There's one person who consistently beats Mahomes and puts up elite numbers. It's him. Like, if I had to put two people in that tier, one would be Mahomes and one would be Burrow. I like Josh Allen a lot, but right now Joe Burrow has shown more than Josh Allen. Anyway, on to the next one.
We got Jordan Love next.
Jordan Love is the textbook definition of unproven. I know someone by the name of Theodore Ashwell has been going nuts over Jordan Love's crossing route and ignoring screens and whatnot on Twitter, but we have seen nothing from him yet. The throws are there. He also did not perform amazingly when he had to start, but he's been sitting behind one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL for the past few years. So, I am going to say this is me calling my shot right now. Jordan Love is going to perform better than Aaron Rodgers will in 2023.
I feel the exact same way. I think they don't have... I know a lot of Packers or Aaron Rodgers fans, they trash on the situation he had last year, but especially as the season wore on, Christian Watson showed he could be a very solid receiver in the NFL. He had Allen Lazard, a very, decent second option. He had very good backfield. The offensive line was okay. It's not the best it ever was in Green Bay, but I think there's enough there for Jordan Love to be very successful. And when we saw him step in and play last year, he was very good. So I think he's going to be a good quarterback next season. I think he's in that Kirk Cousins tier. I think he can be better. It's a bit of a projection.
Is this just us hating on Aaron Rodgers now? Because I'm okay with that. We can go full sin and put him down there in the XFL. They care a lot less about recreational drug use in the XFL, I'm sure.
Probably do.
Next up.
We got Josh Allen.
There are 3 quarterbacks in the NFL who are better than everyone else. Jalen Hurts is clawing at that tier to get to that level. If he had another season like he had last year, gets his team deep in the playoffs, puts up the numbers he did on the ground and in the air, I'd say it becomes 4. But if you are going to make Joe Burrow the highest you'll put Mahomes, I'd put Allen below him. But I think Allen's talent-wise might even be higher than Mahomes. He just isn't quite as clutch, and he's been dealing with some injuries. Although Josh Allen can be incredibly clutch. He should have won the game last year, but his defense let the Chiefs walk down the field in 13 seconds, or 2 years ago. If the defense holds, this is a very different conversation. Josh Allen might be at the top of our list, but because of that and because of the injuries he has had to deal with recently in his throwing arm, I just don't think we can put him above Burrow. I'd like to put him in that Mahomesian tier. I think he belongs in that Mahomesian tier, but I'm not driving this bus.
I think he belongs... I mean, if we're putting Burrow in the Mahomesian tier, I personally think it's Mahomes... Then there's a little bit of a gap. Then it's Burrow and Allen. And those are the next 2 guys. Those are the next 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL. And since you got me putting Burrow there, I have to put Allen there. I don't think he's that much. There's much of a difference between him and Burrow to the point where I would knock him down a complete tier.
Patrick Mahomes plays like Patrick Mahomes about 90% of the time. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow play like Patrick Mahomes like 75 to 60% of the time. So... I think those are the only 3. You now know he's going to be on top of our list. Spoiler alert, we named the tier after him. But who do we have next?
Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, dear God. For where he stepped in and how he performed, I'd say he could have a great career in the XFL. I feel bad putting him down there with Deshaun Watson. We have not seen enough from Dobbs to make me think anything less. He did not look good in his limited action in Tennessee. Granted, it's hard to look good behind that... We're not putting him in the X. We'll put him at clipboard warrior. I'd say below. You can put him at bottom.
He is a scholar. He's very intelligent.
Well, he went to Tennessee, so that's debatable. But I'll put him there for now. He has not impressed me so far. Hopefully, he's able to turn it around, get a better team to be the backup for him. Who do we got now? I'll put him there for now. He has not impressed me so far. Hopefully, he's able to turn it around, get a better team to be the backup for him. Who do we got now?
We got Justin Fields, and this is one where I'm steering the ship. I don't really care what Isaiah has to say with this one.
Well, Justin then can Fields... I say my piece before you mutilate our beautiful list?
What do you want to say?
Justin Fields has been one of the worst passing quarterbacks in the NFL. He's been horrible in the pocket. He's been horrible outside the pocket. His only redeeming factor is his legs. People call Lamar Jackson the running back. Justin Fields is your answer to that. Justin Fields and Daniel Jones are identical, except somehow Daniel Jones has better ball discipline and accuracy than Justin Fields. If Fields were to sustain or get any sort of help in the offensive line, I might change my mind. But as things have stood now, and what I've seen last year, he is not a good passer of the football, which you need to be to compete in the NFL. I'd say at best, he goes in the Kirk Cousins tier behind old Aaron. But you're going to put him in a lead because you've been riding that meat since high school. Bit weird to do to a high schooler. Been riding it in college at Ohio State, and now you're riding it in the NFL. So keep riding.
Well, I'm not going to ride it as hard as you thought I was going to. I'm not putting him in bridge quarterback because bridge quarterback, I don't think he's that level. I think he has all the potential, and I think he has a potential to be elite, but we haven't seen that yet as a passer. We haven't seen him do it as a passer. We haven't seen him be be electric from the pocket. We've seen him throw some incredible deep balls, but on the other side of things, his receivers were pretty putrid last season. His offensive line was not as good as you'd like it to be, and I think he's going to be better than Aaron Rodgers this year. I think he's going to be better than Jordan Love. I'm tossing him right behind Dak Prescott.
He threw some stinky game-losing interceptions, which you're just going to ignore. Hey, man, I don't like Justin Fields. It's got nothing to do with his personality, but he went to Ohio State and plays for the Bears. There's nothing good about him, besides his ability to run the ball. We need a real quarterback in there, a real passer like Lamar Jackson, like Jalen Hurts, like Patrick Mahomes, to steer a team to the Super Bowl. He could save the Bears, except the Bears decide, hey, I'd rather have Mitch Trubisky, the Caucasian equivalent of, I was going to say Tyrod Taylor, but I think I might rather have Tyrod Taylor than Mitch Trubisky at this point. Oh, man, what a decision that was. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just realizing we have Aaron Rodgers at the 9th best quarterback right now, and we still have like 22 quarterbacks left.
Not looking good for Aaron.
Now we got Justin Herbert. I mean, I think he easily slides into elite. Doesn't have the playoff success yet of Hurts. I think he belongs right behind Hurts.
I blame, to a certain extent, him, but to a greater extent, his coaching for why they lost that playoff game the way they did. They handicapped Herbert, and because of that, the offense did nothing in the second half, but he was good enough to get his team out front by a wide margin over a solid Jacksonville defense. I put him right there behind Hurts in the elite tier. No real argument there.
And when Rashawn Slater goes down early in the season, certainly made life a lot harder on him. Now we got Kenny Pickett, who I think is an interesting conversation based on what we saw last season.
Box score-wise, Kenny Pickett looked really bad last season. There were points in the game, and there were even entire games where Kenny Pickett seemed to put it together, though, and looked like, hey, maybe he could be a quality quarterback. He ran less than I thought he would. I thought Kenny Pickett would be a lot more mobile outside the pocket. That simply wasn't the case. I'm going to say, as of right now, bridge quarterback, I'd definitely put him below Jimmy Garoppolo, Daniel Jones, Carr, and those guys. But going forward, I'd probably rather have him than Baker and Jameis.
Yeah, I think that's right where I'd put him. I think what we seen just more quality starts from Jacoby Brissett. Now, I think Kenny Pickett certainly has more potential than Brissett, but we also saw a lot of bad last season. So I'm putting him right below Brissett, above Jameis and Baker.
Okay, and let me ask this question. What do Kenny Pickett's numbers look like compared to Desmond Ritter's?
I don't know.
Because they're virtually identical. We're going to look like a couple of racists.
I don't know. I'm just not a Desmond Ritter fan. I don't
Say that for after the fact. All right, who we got there? Is that
Kirk Cousins, the namesake of the third tier?
He's got a tier named after him. Basically means quality franchise quarterback who's not going to lead you anywhere. Now, I'm going to put him above Fields, Love, and Rodgers because I hate two of those guys and have a lot of faith in Jordan Love, but haven't seen it yet. Let's keep it honest. I'd rather have Dak Prescott right now than Kirk Cousins based off that little 4th and 8th throw. There's a negligible difference. Justin Fields has so much more upside, but so much more downs. Oh, Lord. I'm going to say Kirk's better than Fields. I wish Dak Prescott was on the Vikings, but I'd also get massacred by that O-line. I just wish Kirk was somewhere else. He is a box score warrior. He is a playoff choker. He's a primetime choker as well. I hate Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins has his own tier. I think it's appropriate he goes right in the middle of it.
I agree 100%. That's where I would toss him. I think him and Dak are basically the same player as far as not exactly their games, but the quality of quarterback they offer to their offense. So I agree with Isaiah on that one.
Next,
we got Kyler Murray.
This is a weird one because he's better than the Kirk Cousins tier, but he's also worse than the elite tier. He's also injury prone and appears to be a little bit of a diva, although we don't know what's being said if it's true or not. I'm going to say because it was a clause in his contract that it might actually be an issue how much time he spends off the field practicing, getting better and whatnot. So I'm going to say, can we make a new tier?
Part of me just wants to toss him at the bottom of the Kirk Cousins tier, and I think his ceiling is certainly the elite tier. But the reason I toss him all the way down there is because the second half of every single season, he's been injured. He's not available in the second half of each year. Tore his ACL last year and did not look that great last year. He's getting paid like an elite quarterback. His ceiling is an elite quarterback, but he's only going to play half the season this year, if he even plays. Maybe the Cardinals tank for the draft position. But I personally, for those reasons, would toss him all the way at the bottom of Kirk Cousins.
I would honestly just make a tier in between bridge quarterback and Kirk Cousins called Call of Duty athlete and drop him right in there. You've got the power to do that. That gear is right there next to it on the screen.
In between bridge and Kirk Cousins?
Yep. And make it a different color. It's not aesthetically pleasing.
Call of Duty athlete. There we go.
Right there. He can be there by himself. Next.
Certainly makes me have to scroll each time. Now we got Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson's elite. If you don't think he's elite, you're a hater. I would not put him above Herbert right now just because of the injury concerns the past 2 years and the weird situation he's in right now. There's no doubt in my mind he's elite. It's the best rusher of the football we've seen since Vic, and he might be better than Vic at it from the quarterback position. And he is an average to above average passer. He's elite.
Yeah, that's where I would toss him. I think because of those injuries, those availabilities, the best ability, you can't take him over. You can't take him over Herbert right now. So I agree with Isaiah's reasoning. Now we have Max Jones.
Mac Jones looks like he absolutely throws down some League of Legends. I'm tempted to put him in there next to Kyler Murray.
That's what I was thinking.
Like, Mac Jones looks like a gamer, but not the good type of gamer. Might as well. Mac Jones and Kyler can play COD with each other. Next.
Now we got Malik Willis, who did not look good last season.
He would be an absolute stud in the XFL. It's not an insult to him. It's more so he's an athletic freak, or at least he was in college, and that probably translates better to the XFL than the NFL. From what we've seen last season, yeah, he was not good, but I think he'd be a great XFL player, and if he gets enough development, he could be a functional quarterback in the NFL. But from what we've seen, XFL.
This placement, yeah, he hasn't been good. Still doesn't throw to the middle of the field. But if he was in the XFL, I think he'd run for 200 yards a game and probably throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns. So now we got Marcus Mariota, who has been career's kind of been all over the place.
I'd say he's in top tier quality backup from what we've seen at Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, he was very solid last season. I think he was certainly better than what we saw from Desmond Ridder, and I think he's better than all the backups we have listed, so I would toss him there as well. Now, Matt Stafford. That's kind of an interesting one.
If Matthew Stafford comes back and plays the same way he did in the year they won the Super Bowl, he is an elite quarterback. He's lower than Lamar and Herbert, I think, but he's definitely elite. And he's shown you the ability to win a Super Bowl fairly recently. Last year, his O-line was horrible and he dealt with injuries all season, particularly to his throwing arm. That knocked him down a peg. I'm going to say I have faith in Matthew Stafford and his pedigree that he will be able to get back to that elite level. Probably the low end, but I definitely put him above Jared Goff.
Well, if we're going to knock Aaron Rodgers for his performance last season, I think we have to do the same for Stafford. I mean,
Stafford's not a playoff choker, though. That's the thing.
But he's also an older quarterback coming off a neck injury where there was retirement rumors floated out there. So I personally would toss him in the top end of the Kirk Cousins tier. I could see definitely the potential to be elite if he returns back to form. But I think that injury, again, kind of like the injuries making us put Lamar a little bit lower in elite and some other players lower. That's why I would put him at Kirk Cousins versus elite.
If you want him to be the bodyguard of the Cousins tier and not to let anyone get past him, fine. I hope he gets better. The only thing which is really holding him back to me right now is the offensive line, though. Anyway, on to the next one.
We got Mike White.
Mike White. Okay, look. I like Mike White I like Mike White memes as much as the next guy, but come on, man. Like, there's a reason he was sitting behind Zach Wilson, and even when he came in, he had like one good game and didn't really improve that much. He's not a good starting quarterback. He's not a bridge quarterback, and he's probably like a middle of the serviceable backup quarterback tier at best. I'd say above Davis Mills because of memes, but that's about it. Not as good as Cooper Rush.
I might take him over Cooper Rush, but I think he also belongs in that capable backup tier. Now we got Mitch Trubisky.
Should make an MVP tier and put him, Baker, and Dak in that one. But
we have too many tiers.
Lord. I like Mitch more than most people. I think he is he's something.
I think he's the high end of backup, personally.
He'd probably be a pretty good backup. Does not work for the entire season as we saw in Pittsburgh behind that terrible O-line. But hey. Next.
Nick Foles, Big Dick Nick.
Not anymore. He's not even a serviceable backup anymore, I don't think.
He's a clipboard
Age just caught
warrior.
up to him. He's too tall. Let him be a clipboard warrior.
You can go, I'd even take him below. I think I'd take Colt McCoy over him.
A long fall from the Super Bowl MVP. Who do we have behind him there?
Josh Dobbs.
Poor Josh Dobbs. Next.
We got Patrick Mahomes.
We don't need to talk about that. Pat Rose is the best quarterback in football and has go potential. We'll just leave him there.
Now I got PJ Walker.
Now, PJ Walker is by definition a USFL, or what was the AFL, which folded. I could be wrong. He was another professional league legend and was good enough to get to the NFL. And I think he's one of the better backups in the league, which people just don't talk about. Like, he is a very high-end backup, and I'd like to see him as a starter, but I don't think he's going to get that opportunity anytime soon.
I'd put him right in between Minshew and Cooper Rush.
I'm fine with that.
That's right. I mean, I think he's very solid, but I would rather have...
Now, hold on. I'm just going to say this. Cooper Rush came in with the Cowboys and things didn't fall apart and he won a lot of games. Minshew did not do that. And we're still putting Minshew above Cooper Rush. That doesn't sit right with me.
You want to do it like that, then?
Yeah, I'd say do it like that.
That's true. I got Russell Wilson, XFL legend.
I don't think he'd be an XFL legend, personally.
You think he'd be a bum?
Nah, yeah, I don't know if he'd start personally. Depends on the team. Definitely used to be in that elite tier. Maybe. Definitely used to be in that Kirk Cousins tier. I'd say, let's assume he returns to form. Sean Payton, very good coach. I'd rather have him going into next year than Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's put him at that same breadth as Aaron Rodgers. We're bad last year, but there was a minor enough amount of extraneous circumstance where you say, hey, we'll give it another shot. But he can fall down to that bridge quarterback tier real quick if he doesn't turn things around by week 5.
The only difference is that Russell Wilson was the leader of the worst offense in the NFL, getting paid way too much money.
Nathaniel Hackett, let's ride. Who we got there?
Tannehill.
Tannemid. Okay. Tannemid feels a bit insulting. That mid-tier seems to be the Kirk Cousins tier, and Kirk Cousins and those guys are way better than Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill kind of stinks. Worse than Dan Jones, certainly. Worse than Carr, worse than Garoppolo. Who do we got next to him? You're moving
got
back.
Purdy, Brissett, Pickett.
I'm taking Purdy over him. I'm taking Pickett over him going into the next season.
So we're putting him above Jameis?
For now, sure, because he got to be a starter. More recently, and didn't lose his job to injury, although, actually, I guess he did lose his job to injury if he doesn't start again, but whatever. It's Ryan Tannehill. We don't care.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Tannehill at all. I've been very low on him as of recent. Now we got Darnold.
Mystery. Sam Darnold looks like he would absolutely throw down to like some Wii Sports. So let's put him right next to Mac Jones and Kyler Murray.
Okay. I think this is Sam Ellinger. Yeah, it's Sam Ellinger.
I don't know, man. He kept Jake Haener on the bench in college. We all know how great of a quarterback Jake Haener is. Made him transfer out of the Power 5 to Fresno State. I hear he looks very similar to his backup, even if he will get drafted in the 7th round. So let's, Sam Ellinger, I'd put him below everyone but Dobbs. I might even put him below Dobbs.
I'd put him as XFL legend. I think he'd tear up the XFL.
He was a 5-star athlete, so sure, we'll throw him in there.
Then we got your boy Sam Howell.
Heisman Howell. So let's do some projection here. Sam Howell looked decent, I want to say. It could have been better, could have been worse. In the offensive system he got plugged into last year, the upside was there. He was a very high college prospect for a season, but then got stuck in one of the worst ever UNC offenses and was forced to run for his life every single play. If we're going based purely off projections, I put him right next to Jordan Love in terms of his production for the 2020.
I don't think he's going to be that good. I mean, he's a major question mark, but I let Isaiah project Jordan Love, so I'll let him project Sam Howell.
Yeah, I've seen enough of how to say I'm fairly confident, particularly if he gets the reins to the offense the entire offseason, gets the entire part of camp on that good O-line, but with those receivers, which are looking young and promising with that running game. It could be a good offense. With Eric Bieniemy, it's going to be a good offense. I'll put him next to Love.
Now we got Taylor Heineke.
You can call this one. I don't particularly care about Heineke.
I think he's the definition of a bridge quarterback. He's been doing that over the past few seasons consistently for the Commanders. I'd put him above Tannehill. Is where
People
I would
are not going to like that, but I don't care enough to argue. Next.
We got Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Lawrence is the lead. He had the hype coming out of high school, in college. Had an amazing second half of last season once he figured out that Doug Peterson offense. Worse than Lamar Jackson, obviously. But he looked good in the playoffs. Or at least the first game of the playoffs. Had an amazing second half against the Chargers, 4 touchdowns. I'm putting him in the lead. Trevor Lawrence has a lot of room for improvement and looked really good in last season. So if he keeps getting better, which he should, it's going to be scary hours for the AFC South.
I agree 100% with what we saw from him last season. You take him over everyone we have below him, certainly. And the only reason there's guys above him are because they have way more career accomplishments and they've proved it more consistently that they can be those elite quarterbacks or Mahomesian quarterbacks in the NFL.
Some would argue Dak Prescott's better than Trevor Lawrence, I'm just saying.
Then we got Trey Lance, who's also another massive question mark. And since you're the king of projections.
Trey Lance was so questionable in terms of an injury system. He got brought in, or Sam Darnold got brought in to steal his first team reps. Apparently, they're going to go into training camp with Sam Darnold and him fighting for a spot. I'm going to say put him right. Well, Sam Darnold, I don't think Trey Lance throws down on video games like that, so I don't think we can put him next to him. And that's not really an indication of skill in terms of his tier. It's just if we think they smack some esports. We have not seen him play good enough to be a serviceable bridge quarterback. He didn't look good in San Francisco when he started, but we haven't seen enough. I'm going to call my shot and say he will look like the very top of a serviceable bridge quarterback this next season. I think it'll look better than Brock Purdy, or comparable to Brock Purdy if he gets on the field.
Isaiah, the king of projections, will revisit this video later at some point. Now I got Tua, one of Isaiah's. I'm not as big as a fan of Tua as Isaiah is, although I think he's very solid.
I'm objective about Tua. What he was putting up prior to getting his head knocked out of his ears was elite production. Behind a mediocre offensive line and with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it's a mixed bag of talent around him. The running game wasn't quite there. Gesicki was not as good as some of you may think he was. He's in that Kirk Cousins tier, and he shows flashes of that eliteness, but he also could be a big injury question mark. I'd put him below Kirk, just because of the injury issues and the continuation of the head trauma.
You go below Fields?
Your call. I'm just saying below Kirk. That's as high as you can put him.
I'll let you have him above Fields.
I didn't ask for him above Fields.
Next. I got Tyler Huntley.
Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley.
I think he's a capable backup. I don't think there's any team in the NFL that would be looking for him to be a bridge quarterback for him, but I do think he's on the high end of capable backup. Although maybe someone would have him start for a year.
I'd say bridge quarterback. Yeah, someone would have him start for a year. The Ravens might have to have him start for a year.
I'd probably take him above Tannehill, actually.
You can do that. You've been clowned too many times by the Titans faithful. All right, I'm not going to argue about it. Next.
Tyrod Taylor.
Very good backup. Would have loved to see him get another chance to start outside the Buffalo Bills. Took the Bills to the playoffs a very long time ago. Incredible athlete. Just keeps catching unlucky breaks. I'd say he's low end of bridge, high end of very good backup.
I think he belongs at backup.
I think him and Baker are incredibly similar in terms of what you get production-wise, but since Baker beat him out for the starting job in Cleveland all those years ago, I'll put him below Baker in that backup tier, top of the backup tier.
Above Mitch and Mariota?
Why not? Tyrod doesn't have the lows those two have. Next.
We have Zach Wilson.
XFL legend feels too nice. Do we think Zach Wilson, the BYU Mormon kid, could function in the environment that the XFL produces week in and week out? Bottom of XFL.
Now we have the rookies. We're doing a lot of projection here. Got Bryce Young first.
Bryce Young's going to be at the absolute bottom of that Kirk Cousins tier. It looks like he has played his way out of going to one of the horrible teams, which is not insult on him. It's just guys like Stroud and Richardson are more attractive than Young. This is just a one-season thing, by the way. Their careers could shake out very differently. Stroud, I mean, you can address that if you want. I think Young's going to be the best rookie quarterback this year.
You think Young's going to be the best?
I do. I think Stroud, if he winds up on the Panthers, I could see Stroud leapfrogging him maybe. I kind of think the Panthers are going to draft Anthony Richardson, which is not going to go particularly well for AR's minutes. Like, Andy Dalton will be the starting quarterback for the Panthers if they draft Richardson for the first half of the season at least.
I like CJ Stroud. I was not a big CJ Stroud guy prior to the semifinal game, and then I started to like CJ Stroud a lot more than I did. So I see why teams would take him over Bryce Young. I think it depends on what teams they wind up on. It looks like Bryce Young will wind up on the Texans, kind of regardless of what happens. It doesn't look like the Panthers are going to draft him. So I think he's going to be solid next year. I don't expect him to have a horrific rookie season. I think with the Panthers in the NFC South, if he goes, assuming he goes there, weakest division in the NFL with an okay supporting cast, I think he's going to be a good quarterback next year.
Yeah, look, one of those two is going to be well above average. The other one's probably not going to be. We're going to go 50% on that prediction. Who's that?
I got Anthony Richardson.
He's not going to play well. That has nothing to his career. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think if he gets to sit on the bench, he's going to be fine. Maybe even an elite quarterback one day. Has the athletic potential to be the best quarterback we've ever seen. Probably won't capitalize on it because he's just not going to be the best quarterback ever. But he could very easily be elite. That being said, if he has to play, his accuracy is going to get him slaughtered. He was throwing behind receivers in college on 10-yard slant routes. I am unmoved by that. If he gets an entire camp, an entire offseason, then another camp to improve as a quarterback, to improve his accuracy, to go with his massive arm, his incredible speed, he'll be a great quarterback, but just not this season. I would put him in XFL legend for the upcoming season.
Okay, I'll let you have that. And Will
Actually,
Levis.
hold on. Clipboard warrior for him, because he should be holding a clipboard. Top of clipboard warrior.
And then Will Levis.
Will Lewis's accuracy is definitely better than Richardson's. He's not as good an athlete, but then again, those muscular photos. You know, we're gonna go ahead and say Will Levis. He definitely doesn't play video games. God, I kind of want to be the contrarian because everyone's saying he's Zach Wilson and put him above. I'm not gonna put him above Young and Stroud because I get called racist, but.
We're going to do projection and put him next to Lance and Bridge.
Sure.
Or I would put him below Baker and Bridge, personally.
No. His upside's way better than Baker's if we're going off that. In terms of day one production, I'd say we can huck him in Bridge. Why not? I think now that I'm looking at it again, Lance might be too high up in Bridge, so we're going to bump him down to like the middle of the pack.
Bump Lance down?
Yeah. I'd say put both of them in like the middle of the pack of Bridge.
I'll put him above Taylor Heineke.
Definitely above old Ryan Tannehill. Okay. Anyone else?
That is it. We have done all of them. Top 10.
Crispy hour and 2-minute video, which will get edited down probably. Top 54 quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a dynamic title right there.
Ranking every quarterback in NFL history.
Ranking every quarterback in NFL history based off how cute they are. At dead last... No, I'm not. I'm going to be nice.
Anyway, that has been this video. Let us know what your guys' rankings are looking like. Who would you move around? If you're for some reason still listening, use code THICK on Underdog Fantasy. Whatever sports you want to try and make some money on. Subscribe to our channel, like the video, and we will see you in the next one.